Have you ever felt like you were doing everything right, and yet everything around you started to fall apart? This is one of those stories that seems simple at first glance. But the deeper you delve into it, the more you realize that something much bigger is at play, as if an invisible force was reacting, not to what the person did, but to what they felt. His real name has been withheld for privacy reasons, so for this story, we'll call him Michael. Michael had a seemingly ordinary life. He worked in financial consultancy, was meticulous, organized, and, according to himself, he left nothing to chance. I like to predict each step, control each variable, from the air conditioning temperature to the exact time to send an email. His world revolved around a single certainty. If you control everything, nothing can go wrong. But that was precisely when his silent collapse began. It all started subtly. Small, unforeseen events. A canceled meeting, a client that disappeared, a contract that didn't close even after weeks of negotiation. And, with each event that didn't go according to plan, Michael tried to tighten the reins on his own life even more. I created lists, goals, rituals, even repeated affirmations in the mirror, but always with the same energy, controlling so as not to lose. On the outside, he seemed like just another determined man. But inside, something was breaking a little more every day. Insomnia, anxiety attacks, and that constant thought, if I don't do everything perfect, everything will go wrong. But no matter how hard he tried, everything kept slipping through the cracks. It was then that the universe began to respond more intensely. An unexpected health problem. A longtime friend who walked away without explanation. An investment that went wrong in an almost inexplicable way. Too many coincidences to ignore. But Michael continued. Planning, trying to control, forcing a direction that simply no longer wanted to be followed. Have you ever felt this way? As if you were fighting a battle against your own life? As if, the more you try to keep everything in place, the more things insist on getting out of control? Maybe this story is closer to yours than you think. And maybe what we call focus, control, and discipline is just anxiety in disguise trying to mask a much deeper fear. In the next few minutes, you will understand what was behind everything Michael experienced, and how what seemed like a string of bad luck, in fact, was a clear message from the universe trying to awaken him. But first, if you have already been through or are going through something similar, comment below. I've felt this. Your pain is not invisible, and your journey can help others too. Watch until the end, because the explanation that comes can change the way you see your reality. Take advantage and leave your like. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. There are many more stories like this coming, and you won't want to miss it. He used to say he didn't believe in luck. For him, everything was a question of strategy, rules, logic, discipline. Michael wasn't the type to let life happen. He made it happen. I woke up early, read performance books, and strictly followed a productivity routine that would make any coach applaud. And yet, there was something he couldn't achieve: peace. On the outside, he was in control. Inside, the chaos only grew. Michael also believed in manifestation, not because he was mystical or spiritual, but because he had read that the mind has power. So he wrote down goals, wrote affirmations, visualized success. But it was all done with a hidden energy, a quiet urgency, a masked fear of failure. He wanted to express the love of his life. Someone who was aligned with his dreams, someone who made him feel complete. When he met she, whose real name we will omit for privacy, he believed he had finally found it. She was everything he had imagined. Beautiful, intelligent, sensitive. But there was one detail. She didn't seem as involved as he was. And it consumed him. He did scripting, visualization, meditated twice a day. He sent messages with calculated care, analyzed her responses as if he were deciphering a secret code of the universe. And, with each unanswered message, he freaked out inside. With each visa, with no return, his mind plunged into a whirlwind of assumptions and self-sabotage. Every day, without a clear answer from the universe, he felt something was wrong. That maybe I was doing something the wrong way. And then, everything started to really go wrong. She started to walk away. No fights, no big explanations. Just a presence that gradually disappeared, like smoke. And the more she disappeared, the more he tightened his grip. But he tried to control, understand, and energetically manipulate the situation. And as if it were a chain reaction, other areas of life began to collapse as well. Finances, which had always been his safe territory, fell apart. An important contract was canceled without warning. A longtime customer asked for a refund. And the anxiety, which he kept hidden under layers of self-sufficiency, came to the surface in the form of insomnia, irritability, and that constant feeling that something bad was about to happen. What did he say? I did everything right. Why did I lose everything? It was as if the universe had turned against him. As if the more he tried to align, the more everything fell out of alignment. But was it the universe? Or was it himself vibrating in something he didn't even know was there? And then the strangest part of this story begins. Little things started to happen. Objects disappearing and reappearing in unlikely places. Unexplained electronic interference. A mirror that broke alone during a night when he cried in silence. Alone, not knowing what else to ask for. What if this was all just a coincidence? Or was there something bigger trying to show what he refused to see? The answer did not come from outside. But what happened after that completely changed the way he saw reality. And that's exactly when you'll begin to understand what really was behind the collapse. Because sometimes, it's not the world that's falling apart. It's just the internal vibration that has finally reached its limit. Let's move on. Because what comes now may reveal more about you than you realize. And you? Have you felt this too? That strange feeling that, no matter how hard you try to keep everything under control, life slips through your hands like fine sand? You wake up with focus, repeat positive affirmations, visualize everything working, but what arrives are delays, rejections, closed doors. It makes you angry to admit it, because you feel like you're trying harder than ever. But that's exactly where it hurts. Because the more force you put in, the more everything seems to slip away. It's like trying to hold water with your fingers too tight. The more you squeeze, the less you can retain. And then comes the guilt. You start to think that maybe the problem is you. That maybe you're doing something wrong. That maybe you don't deserve what you're trying to achieve. And it starts to eat away at you from the inside. You know that moment when you think you're on the right path, but the universe seems to respond with silence? That feeling that positivity is vibrating, but only attracts frustration? Maybe what you call focus is just anxiety in disguise. Maybe your discipline is coming from fear. Fear that if you stop for a second, everything will fall apart. Fear of not being enough. Of losing what hasn't even arrived yet. And this fear, even hidden between the lines of what you feel, has a frequency, a vibration. And the universe hears this. Because it doesn't matter what you say. The universe does not respond to words. It responds to the vibration you emit behind them. And if behind your "I deserve it" there is "but I have to run or it won't work," then what is being emitted is not security. It's scarcity. It's a rush. It's veiled panic. It's desperation trying to pass itself off as faith. And then everything starts to repeat itself. Not exactly the same, but with the same flavor. The same cycle. You attract the same absence, the same rejection, the same emptiness. Only the scenery changes. And you try to convince yourself that you are making progress, because your speech is more beautiful, more conscious. But inside, he still feels scared. And this is what is creating your reality. Could it be that, without realizing it, you are vibrating scarcity, even though you want abundance? Are you repeating a camouflaged internal cycle of spiritual search? Could it be that everything you experience is not punishment, nor injustice, but just a mirror? Maybe the universe isn't punishing you. Maybe he's just outing you, showing what still needs to be healed. And maybe this pain, this feeling of lack of control, of loss, of failure, is not the end, but the beginning. Because when everything breaks, that's when the truth starts to emerge. Not the truth you read in books or heard in motivational videos, but the truth was inside, screaming for years, and you kept quiet with goals, routines, and promises. The truth that you don't need to chase life. You need to become compatible with it. And this is where Michael's story starts to make even more sense. Because it was deep in the chaos, where nothing made sense anymore, that he had the first glimpse of what really commanded him inside. And that's what we're going to reveal now. Because maybe it's commanding you too. This is where the law of vibration comes in. And perhaps this is the part that most confuses those who believe they are doing everything right. Because vibration has nothing to do with what it says what you want, nor with what you thinks who believes. It has to do with what you feel in the most intimate part of your being. It's like a silent signal that you send out all the time, even when you think you're silent. Everything is energy, and everything you feel, is what you are emitting into the universe. Not as a formal request, like someone submitting a CV and hoping for a vacancy, but like a living magnet, a reflection, a mirror. And that mirror doesn't show you what you want, shows what you vibrate. In Michael's case, no matter how much he told himself he was grateful, that he trusted, that he believed, inside him there was a completely different field at work. The real vibe was one of urgency, of scarcity, for fear of not having time, desperate for answers. And this has a name: vibrational resistance. The law of non-resistance is clear. What you chase with desperation moves away. Because the frequency behind desire is not love nor certainty. It's fear. It's control. It's necessity. And the universe does not respond to your conscious intention. It responds to your deepest frequency. Michael's mind said, "I want this woman. I want success. I want stability." But his body vibrated with fear of loneliness, fear of failing, fear of not being seen. And that's what the universe captured. Because in energetic language, what do you feel has more power than what you ask? Attachment, in this context, arises from the idea that something may be missing. And when you vibrate lack, reality has no choice but to show you more of that. You begin to see scarcity in everything, in time, in money, in affection, in opportunities. Even though everything is technically there, it never seems to be enough. The metaphor is simple but profound. Try to hold sand tightly. It slips through your fingers. But if you relax your hand, it stays. So it is with everything you want: love, money, health, recognition. If you try to grab it with anxiety, it slips away. If you trust and allow it, it flows. Michael couldn't allow it, because deep down, he didn't believe that life could work if he wasn't in absolute control. But this control, which seemed like strength, was just fear in disguise. And fear vibrates removal, vibrates separation. It vibrates loss. It was at this point that he began to experience vibrational collapse. Not because the universe wanted to punish him, but because he was so out of alignment with what he said he wanted that everything around him had to be deconstructed. It was the vibrational field asking for coherence. And coherence never comes from control. It is born from surrender. And it was only when he stopped resisting that something unexpected began to happen. But before that, there was one last turning point that he would never forget. And that's where this story takes an even deeper turn. Because what seemed like the end was just the portal. And he had no idea what he was about to discover. The universe does not punish. He just mirrors. And that changes everything. Because most people think they are being tested, punished, forgotten. But the truth is that none of that is happening. The universe has no ego, no judgment, no intention of sabotaging you. It only reflects, with almost surgical precision, what you vibrate. And when Michael understood this, but really understood it, not just intellectually, everything began to change. He realized that the problem was never desire. There was no wrong in wanting love, success, security. The error was in how he wished. It was a desire fueled by fear, shaped by anxiety, lulled by an inner silence that said, "If I don't achieve this, I will fall apart." And the universe, obedient as always, did not see the request, saw the vibration, and he responded to her. He didn't lose everything through bad luck. It wasn't a series of unfortunate coincidences, nor was it random karma. He lost because, the entire time, his vibration whispered, "If I don't control, I lose. If I don't run, I'm left behind. If I don't insist, nothing will come to me." And the universe, mirror that it is, responded accurately. Okay, loss, rush, distance, nothing more, nothing less. The moment everything turned around was almost imperceptible. There was no specific day, no big epiphany. It was something subtle, but profound. He woke up one day and just got tired. He got tired of watching his cell phone waiting for an answer that didn't come. He got tired of making forced visualizations without feeling any truth in them. He was tired of trying to manipulate the invisible for fear of what could happen if he didn't. And in that tiredness, something inside him gave way. He stopped fighting. It was as if he said to life, "Okay, I accept it. Show me what I'm not seeing." And in that moment, for the first time, he was not surrendering out of weakness, but out of wisdom. He let go of the controller. And that delivery was all that was needed. Things didn't change overnight. There was no movie magic. But, curiously, that same week, the client who had disappeared got in touch with an even better proposal. The money, which was locked up, began to circulate. Small invitations, opportunities, meetings. Including her. The woman who had previously walked away reappeared, without explanations, without promises, just feeling what he now vibrated: lightness. Because when he stopped trying to prove he deserved it, he finally became compliant with what he asked for. And that, in itself, changed the game. The key wasn't in the effort. It was in vibrational coherence. In the silent alignment between what he wanted and what he felt be possible. And what he started to feel, after falling apart so much, was no longer fear of losing. It was confidence in you, into something bigger, in a flow that has always been there, but that only responds when you stop fighting it. The universe never wanted to take anything away from Michael. He only took away what was sustained by fear, so that, finally, what was moved by love could arrive. And it was only there, in this new internal space, that the true manifestation began. And you? Did you realize at some point that you were trying to control what just needed to flow? If this video touched you in any way, comment below with the word liberation. This shows me that you felt this content in your heart. And if you are on this journey of awakening, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. This space is made for those looking for answers beyond the obvious. Take advantage and leave your like now, because this helps this type of message reach those who also need to hear it. In the next episode, you will learn about the real case of a woman who repeated to herself, day after day, "Everything goes wrong with me." And, as always, the universe responded. What she discovered next will open a portal of consciousness that perhaps you too are ready to step through. See you there.